Welcome to the Recruitment Rollercoaster podcast. My name is Hisham Azuz, and today I'm joined by Andrew Sillitoe, who is a business psychologist and performance coach. So thank you for coming up all the way from Tunbridge Wells. I do really appreciate it, Andrew.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be back in the East End.
Yeah, I know. As you said, you used to sell on the market not too far away from here, right?
Yeah, Roman Road. I had a market stall here about 25 years ago.
What was you actually selling then?
Knockoffs. I used to bring in stuff from Italy, so it was like Armani suits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
one of those stores.
Yeah, Armani suits, Max Mara for
Love
ladies.
That.
Yeah.
So what was? I always wonder with things like that. Like, do you let people know that this isn't real, or like I don't know, what's the deal there? Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, it's real.
Oh,
I mean, it wasn't
real.
really knockoffs. Yeah, so it's the wrong word. One-offs.
One-offs.
Yeah. So
What
it's
does
like
that mean?
it just means that if you work in retail, because I was in those days working in retail in the rag trade, and you'd buy ranges, you'd buy them,
okay.
3
like
seasons ahead.
Stuff.
So it was like, it was end of season,
right, okay.
so you could pick it up a bit cheaper.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough. Because I always think that, because you always get those stands, and then I'm like, do people buy them thinking that it's like real? But if it is actually genuine and it's real, it's not fake, then that's fair enough.
No, definitely real. Yeah, knockoffs, wrong word. One-offs.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love that. So, look, Andrew, as I was just saying, where I love to start, and I know your story is definitely different to the normal people that come in the studio, but tell us a bit about the story when you first sort of got exposed to the mad world of recruitment and what that journey was like.
So I got into recruitment, the recruitment industry, if you like. I had obviously lots of friends growing up who were in the recruitment industry, so it was always intrigued me.
Sure.
But joined S3 in 2009.
Yeah.
So up until then, I'd always worked in sales, from the market stalls, and then I have a sports background, so I was kind of doing that, and then got some corporate exposure. I worked for Yellow Pages in the field, doing advertising, marketing, sales, and then just by chance fell into consulting, where someone had approached me and said, could you come in and talk about your sports background and your
like combine the two,
corporate and talk about mindset and so on. And in those days it was all very new to me. I was just I was interested in was playing. But I was going to companies like O2, Vodafone, and just talking about leadership and mindset and locker room spirit, all that kind of good stuff. And then decided to go freelance in 2008, which was a terrible time to go freelance. So the whole world changed, and then got approached by S3 to look at a role heading up their leadership development management training.
Nice.
So my role was to look after a team of consultants. They had a brilliant team who were designing, delivering training in the business globally. And then my role, in addition to that, was doing some executive coaching for the high potential. So those that were looking at moving into that director role.
That's really interesting.
With several of those,
so just a quick one on that, because I've heard S3 now a lot since I moved up to London. I used to be in my own little recruitment bubble in Haywards Heath.
Right.
What was your perception of S3 before you joined it? Like, did you have any grounding on what this business was like? Because they've obviously got a huge reputation, right?
Yeah.
Did you have any perception?
Do I have to be honest?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course you got to be honest.
I worked there. I got some really good friends. No, I did ask about. In fact, my girlfriend at the time worked in recruitment.
Okay.
And she knew several people that worked at S3. When they heard I was applying for this job, they were like, "Yeah, that's pretty tough, man. That's a tough." Yeah.
Because I've had a few people on here who worked at S3, and I always ask that because I'm always curious, because like it's been the spawn of so many businesses, right? And it's spoken about a lot. So you had a bit of perception then, and some people let you know what it was like. And
it is tough, but that's why it's successful. And I loved it.
Did you?
I loved my time at S3.
That's amazing. Did you know about this 9 a.m. rule? That's what someone spoke about on this.
No,
Have you
not
heard
heard
about
that one. No.
Oh, right. Okay. So it was
that's midday at S3.
Exactly. So I think it was you may or may not know him, but I had Andy Simpson on here from Stoke.
And he got me the job at S3.
Oh, did
he? Yeah.
Fair enough. So I had him on here. So I asked him. I asked him about S3 and his experience. What actually went on there to sort of create this culture and all this? And he mentioned the 9 a.m. rule, which is just a simple rule that if you're pretty much not there before 9 a.m. or you come in later or whatever, then more than likely you're gonna see the door and see you later, sort of thing. Okay, cool. That's really interesting. So how long was you there for?
2.5 years.
Cool. Okay.
Just over.
Yeah. So I think that's, if we start with, so you helped billing managers as well. Is that right?
Or yeah, that was kind of our sweet spot. So we designed some training for billing managers, and as a consultant, I could come in and sort of identify where we're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. And for me, that billing manager role was so important to the scaling the business and the growing. And if you could master the billing manager role, the player coach role, then for me, having worked with leaders in the corporate world, I thought if you can master this role, you're pretty much set up to go anywhere.
Let's uncover that a bit, because I think that'll be really valuable for people, because that can be a real pain point. You're right. I've heard that a lot in terms of recruitment business owners saying they're struggling to get that next layer of leaders.
Yeah.
And then there's also the pain point for high billing recruiters who sometimes, like Sean experienced at the CEO here, where he didn't really have much of a choice. He was told that he was going to be a billing manager, and he basically had to recreate 5, 6, 7, 8 more of him. Right. So let's uncover that a bit then. So I guess from your previous experience seeing these billing managers, what was the biggest pain that you saw that they were going through? I think one is training for a start, that not much of them actually get much training. But what did you see that you tried to get hold of and coach them on straight away?
For me, it was. I think it's actually evolved over the last 8 years as well. So I think so there are some similarities to some of the things we were teaching at S3.
Cool.
Clearly, the time is the challenge, but time is a bit of a cop out really when you say time. It's really how they're choosing to spend their time. So for me, it was a couple of things, but one is equipping with the tools and techniques to be a coach and empower those around them, etc. Which do
you think everyone can be a coach?
I think anybody can learn to be a coach. Okay. I think some people transition much quicker. I mean, we see there's a whole different debate about that. What makes a good manager? Because you'll see people that are really strong in process, really strong in managing day-to-day activity, and can go on to be just really strong managers. But often then what we see is that they might lack some of those personable skills, not really emotional intelligence.
Skills,
and then we're trying to teach that emotional intelligence, how to be a visionary, etc.
That's fair enough.
So it's getting people to play to their strengths. For me, for the billing manager role is one, learning the tools and techniques. So one of the things we talk about is being able to mentor away from the game.
Okay.
So to build relationships away from the game, get just to actually have a conversation. Often what happens away from the game is a conversation about KPIs, which can be a disheartening conversation.
Okay.
So what we encourage is just, have half an hour, go for a walk, build that relationship away from the game. And the stronger the relationship is away from the game, away from the sales floor, the tougher you can be in the game. It's the same in sports. You see.
Isn't there? What about? So then what? But then so then it's when you hear like your manager trying to be your mate sort of thing, right? There's a line there as well. Then
absolutely.
Is that what you mean by like then you can be tougher in the game if you've got that more solid relationship outside of the game? Is that?
And even it's still a professional relationship away from the game.
Sure.
I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson is a great example, right?
Yeah.
So people, the red face, barking at people, shouting, aggressive manager that we talked about. But then you speak to players and they'll refer to him like a dad. So how do you find that balance between absolutely being held accountable in the game, in the dressing room, but then have this kind of mentor that you can look up to away from the game, and that's the biggest challenge for the billing manager. And often what we see in sports, professional sports, where the conversations are only in the game. Do this, do that, be better at that.
No, you're right.
Try that, and after a while you're like, just get off my case.
No, you're right.
It's right at first, but after a while. But if you've got that relationship away from the game, you go, coach, no problem.
So what types of things? I guess is it just like uncovering, just understand a bit more about that person, like understand, I don't know, more what's going on in their life besides what's going on in those four walls in the office. Like, is there anything in particular that is worth trying to find out, or is it just generally just trying to build some relationships?
I always say to the sports coaches that I work with, know everything about your players.
Really?
Because some of it will manifest itself at some point.
Yeah.
But it's not therapy, and we have to be very careful that we're not going into these conversations trying to solve people's deepest, darkest problems. That's very different. So I'm not an advocate of having that type of conversation, because coaching is about where are you now, where do you want to be, and talking about the future and the present versus some stuff going on in the past. But if that happens, but the point is, you could talk about. I mean, I remember having a manager, and my performance had dropped off a little bit at Yellow Pages, and he was like, he was really curious about it. But at the time, I was just buying a house, and it had all gone a bit wrong, and I was having to drive into the office, whereas we had an office home, but I didn't have an office home. I was living out of a bag at the time, and friends, and and I was driving. I had to drive an hour to get to the office, and in the end, I stopped getting to the office, and he just had a conversation about the house and what they could do to help me with that, and and make it a bit easier, and all of a sudden, I'll never forget that conversation.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, those I've experienced that myself, definitely with my previous director. He helped me in that that outside of the game, if you want to keep calling it that, and those moments, you don't forget them, and 100% I couldn't agree more that it does build that relationship even stronger if they help you with that certain element. That's really powerful, isn't it, for sure. So is there anything else then that springs to mind, or is that a real key part of it? Or
so the point I was making there is that if billing managers can focus on three things, one is mentor away from the game, performance coach in the game, so looking out for stuff, you're busy doing your own work, just hearing positive stuff when you hear a good call, or making a note of it. You don't have to deal with it then, or if you notice something where someone might need a bit of support or a bit of help, just that performance coaching around the desk, sitting down and listening to calls, etc. When you've got time, and then doing training once a week. So you find something. So we call that on the training grounds. If you think about it from a sports perspective, you mentor away from the game, you're coaching in the game, and then you're doing training. You're on the training ground. It's kind of the three areas.
That makes sense.
That every manager has to focus on.
Yeah,
and if they can systemize that, and even gamify it in some way, to say, right, have I trained this week? Have I done a 20-minute session on biz dev? Have I done something on candidate process? Have I done something? What's the problem in my team right now that I need to run some training on? If I could do half an hour at 8:30 before we start, great. If I mentored someone everybody this month, if I done have I given some feedback to somebody, daily. And if that's not really happening, smart. Then if you do that and systemize it, then just go all in your own billing.
Yeah, that makes it sound really quite simple as well when you break it down into those three sections, isn't it? That makes sense. Okay, something that I'm interested in, because I've had some bad managers in the past, and this is just my perspective, but I think sometimes you get those managers that haven't been they haven't grown within the business, right? They come externally,
right?
And some of the bad managers that I've experienced that way is that when they come in, they feel like they have a point to prove. In terms of...
They do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. No, as in okay, what I mean by that is more stamping their authority as opposed to building relationships.
Yeah.
What's your view on that? Because obviously, of course they have a point to prove.
Yeah.
I just mean more of they want to let everyone know that they have the authority.
Yep.
They're their manager, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And for me, from what's worked better for me, obviously everyone's different, but I feel like if I was a new person, a new manager, I'd want to understand, probably more focus on the out of the game stuff before I start saying, hi guys, bang, I'm your new manager. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think so some part is that people grow out of that, because they're not comfortable with that vulnerability. You start mentioning vulnerability to, for want of a better word, alphas and those people that want to take charge and have that sort of command and control.
Yeah,
it's really coming from a place of insecurity.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Right, so once people start to accept that and go in and ask questions, the biggest shift from a manager to a leader is when they go, you know what, I don't have the answers. What do you think?
Self-awareness.
That's self-awareness and just trying and being curious, humility and showing some of that vulnerability, and that's what we see in great leaders. But I was a manager at Yellow Pages. First thing I did was, as a top performer, was say, "This is how I did it. Just follow that."
Yeah.
And everyone went, "No." You know what I mean? So, and we see that in recruitment a lot. That meritocracy. So not the top performers don't make great leaders. We know that. Can we teach them? Well, we can, but it often comes from some sort of epiphany, or a desire, because it's just not working out. And we see a lot, just go back to billing, because that's where they're playing to their strengths.
Last thing on the billing manager piece, then we may come back to it, but I think so. What from your experience then, because obviously you've continued to work with billing managers, not just in S3, but later on as well in your career. Yeah. So what's been the most common habit that's held a billing manager back, you've seen that, or a most common mistake, or whatever it is that you've seen that has prevented them just to become that leader or that piece? What have you seen a lot of billing managers do?
I'd say the thing that's probably holds them back the most is the lack of patience.
Really?
Yeah, that's you remember that they're going from in the game, go, just playing, and then all of a sudden they've got to slow it down and go, right, where are my guys at?
And I think a part of that as well is that they have less control.
Of what?
Obviously you're saying they need to be patient, but they're actually being patient on other people getting it right, and that so as in what I mean by that is in lacking control of that, they can't just pick up the phone and do the biz dev for their team.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? That's
but
what
they bring that. Huh? They bring that to the conversation. You're absolutely
that's
right.
what I mean. So I think
it's hard to switch that on and off.
That's what I mean, because I've heard that a lot as well, where billing managers found it really tough, where they're going this new role and then they'd expect people to do things how they do it. Do you get what I mean? And that's also a really challenge as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What about what do really successful billing managers do? Like, what is it that just focus on those 3 key areas, or what is it that good leaders do a lot of?
There's a lot of things we could talk about there, but focus on your top performers.
Okay.
Get rid of deadwood.
Nice.
Yeah.
Simple. I like that.
Yeah. Recruitment's not for everybody. And if you've got an angelic view that my top performers will keep performing and I'll just get these guys up to speed, sometimes in recruitment and any sort of high performance world, sports, any kind of industry where some people aren't cut out for it. And we've got to get to that decision pretty quickly, so being slow to hire, quick to fire type stuff. And because you're doing that person injustice by holding on to them.
Yeah, no,
you're right.
And
if you look at
and it does also more, what I've heard a lot is that holding on to that person, it does actually more damage, not just for them, but also the team as well. It can be quite. It can damage the team, the environment.
It can be, and on different levels. If that person's a bit toxic, or I mean, that's another debate. I mean, you have someone who's a top performer and who's toxic, right? In your dressing room, and it only takes one bad apple to make the team underperform, regardless of how good they are. So there is that. But people talk about we can only recruit on attitude and so on, and I'm not a huge believer in that because, as a I've was coached at a high level in sports, so you have a bit of a luxury particularly when you coach an international team and you're putting a group of people together, because you get the best, you get to see the best of the best. So you look for skill first. You look, can they skate? Can they stick handle? Can they shoot the puck? Can they do all that kind of stuff? And then are they the right cultural fit for the dressing room? Are they going to fit within this?
That's secondary.
And that's secondary. And I would encourage recruitment companies to have the same approach. And I might say, well, they've never sold before. Well, you can kind of tell if someone can sell. You know what I mean? You can, have they got that DNA for sales, and how are you going to interview them in a way that
cultivates
gives
that, or
you
lets
that.
Bring it out.
And then once you go, actually, you know what? I think this person's cut out for sales. Now are they the right cultural fit?
Yeah.
Do they fit into our organisation? And then you can, and there's loads of debates around that. But I think if someone's, got that DNA for sales.
Yeah. Now let's go into that a bit more, because I think that's always I put out to the audience quite a lot, saying let me know if there's any topics you want me to cover, and I think it comes up a lot. What should we look out? What should we look out for that gives us the best chance of investing in the right person for them to be a good recruiter? Like, what key attributes, what key personality traits, whatever you want to call it. So you mentioned the DNA of sales or whatever. What key things that would you try and keep an eye on? Is it resilience? Is it patience? Is it confidence? Whatever it is, what would you say? Do you think?
Resilience is definitely important. I think a desire, some sort of proven background, a desire to do well. Yeah. So often we say, do you want to make money? If you want to make money, great. You'll be brilliant.
That's the first question, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's that people that are inherently a little bit more selfish and often make good recruitment consultants. I think that's a given, but I would just look for that ambition, that drive. Even if they fail horribly, at selling something in an interview or something like that, but the fact that they gave it the best go, and then you kind of go, actually, this person's got that little bit of go in them to try and at least show that they can sell something, and then we can just give them the framework and the process and this. But if they don't show any of that desire, then it's probably. I think
for me as well, it's like trying to tap into. Like I know obviously so many people use it now, but trying to tap into that person's why, in terms of like, it's very easy to go, I want to earn loads of money, but if you understand why they want to do that, that can also help you make a good judgment. I think if I'm telling you I want to make 6 figures this year, and you say, why is that, Hisham? Well, I have a real motivator to enable my parents to live the life that they want to, right?
Yep.
That's if you can tap into that and understand that. Hopefully that should mean that when you do have a shit day in recruitment and 3 interviews fall out, they can fall back on something that why and that motivator, and that's going to help. Do you get what I mean?
So I totally get what you mean.
And I think it's that, because like for me, and also look, a proper recruiter will understand when they help candidates get into another job, or even them, they take the job because of that either personal connection with that company or the people that they met, and also if it can really tap into like them getting close to their purpose or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's that coupled with, look, trying to stop talking about Ibiza and trying to understand what does this person want to get out of this, and how we can help them get close to that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's far more intrinsic, and we could go. I talk about in my book about the kind of Simon Sinek why, and he talks about Apple, and I think that's a very different why. It's a marketing message, and I think a lot of businesses that are trying to go, they've watched a video and they go, right, let's find our why, and you end up spending 2 days off site. Yeah,
because it's chucked out around a lot now. Isn't
it? And I think there's a misinterpretation of it. Simon Sinek is a marketeer. He's coming with a marketing message, and it's very powerful to have that why. He uses Apple as an example, but really he's using Steve Jobs' why. So when businesses say to me, "Oh, can you come and help us with our why?" And it's a CEO, I say, "Well, what's your why?" Because your why is the business why. You know what I mean? So
it's got to start from that person.
Yeah, now you can get your leadership team around that idea and get them to believe in it.
So is that pretty much what you say when people say that? Then it's like, what's your why? Yeah, they're a bit startled when I left S3. My first 3 to 4 clients I was in went back into the corporate world was Pfizer, Ericsson, Virgin, AXA PPP. Big companies. Oh, that AXA's in Tunbridge Wells, aren't they?
That's right. It's about 2,000 staff. So there's and it was all about this why, so actually, if anything, Simon did is create a lot of work for me, but I got stuck. I went in and I was getting caught out because you get a group of people go, well, my why is this, and someone will say, our why is to change the world, and then you get someone say, well, actually, you know what? My parents have had nothing, and my wife's come and work into work and make some money so I can give it back. That's a very different motivation. So getting everyone aligned. So if a business, if any of your business owners are watching and thinking, we want to get really clear on our why, it's got to start with the business owner.
Really?
That's just my opinion. And say, what's your why? Because Steve Jobs was ruthless about challenging status quo, thinking differently, etc., etc. And if you weren't bought into that, then you probably won't survive in the business.
And do you think if that business owner gets that right, it helps them make better decisions? I can imagine, like across all different things, right? If they really nailed that down and understand it, I'm assuming that hopefully it should help them make better hiring decisions, better financial decisions in terms of for the business. Is this going to help me get closer to what I want to achieve? Is that fair?
I would say so. And if you can align the business to it, you're going to get it right through the business. You're going to get that golden thread. So what you want to be looking at is the what and the why. So the what is to achieve X amount of revenue, which is our kind of serves us as a business. The why is to serve others, right? So even if you're trying to come into work to make money for your family, you're still serving others. It's a selfless act. So when people say, what's the difference between a vision or a why, a purpose and mission and all these kind of semantics, I would just say what and why. What do you want to achieve as a business? Why is it important to you? So who are you serving through your why?
Well, and put that together as your vision. Is that what you're saying?
And just so you've got it's a bit of a rational and an emotional version. Then you've got the rational, which is, well, we have to make money. We've got to drive the bottom line. But actually, if we could do it in a way which is meaningful and purposeful, and then everybody through the business buys into that, then you're off to the races, because that's the holy grail. It's just but there's a process to that as well.
No, sure. So just to frame it up a bit more then, so you was 2.5 years at S3. And then so after that, as you said, you went into the corporate clients, as you just said. And then did you continue to have recruitment businesses, or how did that materialise? Did you get more work because you worked at S3?
Well, that's kind of how it was quite organic, really. So what happened was I got a client. Someone would ask to come in and speak to them from recruitment. I remember what you did for us at S3, or referred to me.
Okay. Well, that's probably a good company to get into as well, because they started so many businesses from that as well.
Well, there was that, So that was one of the benefits. But at the time, I was doing corporate rates, so I was going into these sort of small to medium sized businesses saying, this is how the program looks, how what it would cost. And they were looking like I was crazy. I mean, I was like, but I was just kind of like, in that corporate world. And then a few more clients, and I started thinking, you know what, I'm having so much fun. in the recruitment industry, and it was just real people. I wasn't being brought in by HR and sort of a tick in the box or work with this team. It was
you can work directly with the owner of the business.
We're doing real work, and you could see change happen immediately, and sort of work with that business. So by 2016, I would say I'd gone from 90% of my work being like kind of corporate and to completely reversing, and then in 2017, I think it might have been 2016 actually, the strategic team coach brand was kind of dormant. It was the idea behind it was I was doing team coaching. That was off the back of I went to university, did a master's in organisational change, and kind of recognised that team coaching was my thing.
That's where you could add the most amount of value.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and so strategic team coach was that was the proposition.
Yeah.
But the brand sort of lay dormant for a while, and then I thought, this is a good brand for recruitment. So we just completely rebranded and positioned Strategic Team Coach as a recruitment training company.
Nice.
And that's really, just from my own marketing perspective and niching and
it's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's that working out period that's really valuable as well, isn't it? It's tough.
Yeah.
You have to work it out.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. I wish because I used to joke about it in 2012. I used to say, why don't I just focus on billing managers?
Yeah.
A bit of that. The industry's too small. It's not enough, and that's what we're doing, and the business has thrived on it because people get us and they know what we're doing, and we love what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
it's weird that, isn't it, when you can really double down. Like there's a huge part of your just thought in your head or voice, whatever, saying you're missing out on way too much here.
Yeah. Double down. If it's working,
and
then just go all in, and that's what we did, and also now it's sort of growing outside of that.
So what's so cool? So let's talk a bit about that period and working with these recruitment businesses, etc. What's like the most common thing that you get brought in to do or help them change, etc. What would you say is the most common thing that you do? I know you said billing managers, but is there...
that's our flagship.
Okay.
We've got a program called Good to Great, which is run by Mike Watman, my business partner.
Okay. What's that about then? Is that
so that is aimed at senior consultants who are perhaps plateauing, or they just want to work a bit smarter and more efficiently
to help them bill more?
Yeah, so you might you sort of hit that wall. So if it's a £200,000 biller and they want to get to that $500,000 or whatever.
Well, let's unpack then. So you help with that, right? That's with your business partner.
That's an interview with Mike Watman. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because that's his bag, and he knows it inside out. And he's been a top performer. He's built teams. And
so I'm sure you've got a bit of an opinion, right? I guess what do you see the best billers do a lot of, like, because the last question I asked someone on here was what does your day look like? You like build a lot. I think that's a big thing. Like how do people structure their
bigger phone bill, more meetings.
Say that again, sorry.
Bigger phone bill, more meetings.
Okay, nice, fair enough. But I don't know, because you've been.
That's what top performers do.
Fair enough. But you've been around these people, right? I don't know. Is there anything that strikes you that you see a lot of when you come across big billers or whatever? Is there anything that, I know everyone's different and has their own way, but is there any similar trade that you see a lot?
I think it's so diverse. You'll have someone who can literally make all their money on the phone, and not have that many meetings. But but I think in a world now where there's so much noise and automation and so on, that personable approach, getting out and meeting the candidates, getting out and meeting the client, not taking it for granted.
For sure.
So
you've got to build communities now.
Massively. And also be I know it's a bit cliche, but to be a thought leader in your sector. So if you're gonna niche, and I think what we'll see, and we do it on the billing manager course now. So we're doing on the camera, how to communicate on the camera.
Nice.
Mainly because we're teaching gravitas and how to communicate and hold a room. As a key leadership skill. But I think now for consultants, media training is going to be a key part. Obviously, this is where you guys fit. But that ability to project your voice through the camera, and even the quality of it. Not just what you say, but the delivery of it, the lighting, everything is going to become so much more important now. And I think that's going to be the transition. But I don't think we can ever take away getting out and meeting the people.
You still got to do that legwork and still do that hard. For sure.
Because candidates remember that forever.
When
you
100%.
That's
that's a huge
and
part of it as well.
One of the main reasons why the candidate, it's the difference between a candidate going, you know what, it's much easier if you haven't met the consultant to go, I'm not interested.
Yeah, exactly. I think, look, I'm hearing it a lot. You may hear this or you've heard it for a while, but I think recruiters and recruitment businesses now, they don't want to be perceived as just a business that gets bums on seats. That's like, they want to get as far away from that as possible. They want to be, maybe they've already thought this because you've been in the industry longer than I have, but they want to be seen as a real service provider. They want to be seen as an extension of their clients' businesses. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a huge part of it, what you're talking about. So a little just interested and intrigued then, what sort of things do you talk about to help people get in front of the camera? Like, because a lot of people are scared of that, and everyone, if you scroll through your LinkedIn newsfeed now, it's just videos everywhere. Do you know what I mean? So is there anything that, how do you help people get over that, or any advice for people who are thinking, I've seen these videos everywhere, I need to start doing them? Like, what?
So there's a couple of things. First thing is that what you said about being more personable is exists forever.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just that the platforms have changed. So the idea of trying to separate myself and engage with a client and customer service and having a client engagement strategy has, that's been around for a long time. So I think the danger right now is that people are gravitating towards it because it's easier.
Yeah.
And it's nicer. But at some point you've got to also do the introduction, which is a cold call. Right, so
it's got to be both, Both.
So and I remember making even the piece of work I got, I remember shaking, making this, and I'm a seasoned sales, I worked at Yellow Pages for years. So
when you did the video?
No, I'm talking about making just a cold,
cold call.
Starting a business from scratch,
Christ,
in 2012 and just phoning up people.
I used to dread.
Still,
I used to dread business development. Yeah, still. You still get that weird feeling in your tummy, fuck.
So you got to it's like the pre-game, and kind of what's the worst case scenario. So so there's still going to be that element, regardless of how we communicate online, how we communicate, with technology and automate things and so on. There's still an introduction at some point, with someone you've never met before, and that's where business development comes from. So that's key. As far as the actual video is concerned, I think the challenge we've got at the moment is that there's so much stuff out there. Yeah. Hey, I've got this candidate, and there's and it's just you can just sort of scroll through it. I think, and then you've got the how to. So do this and try this, and here are the 5 rules, and here I've done that, right? So, but I think the things that will separate consultants is their ability to tell stories.
Yeah, definitely.
It's storytelling, not even their personal story, but let me tell you about a candidate that that, and there's an art and a craft to that, and the way to structure it, and every story has a beginning, middle, and end. So there's something to be taught there, and I think if consultants can start getting to that mindset of sharing case studies, but in a subtle way through storytelling, and make the candidate the hero or the client the hero.
No, I really like that.
Then and that's what like insight selling and using data and wrapping it all up in an emotional story, which is why TED is so popular, because it's just data wrapped in an emotive story. It works, and I think if you can do that in a minute and a half on LinkedIn,
you're gonna have a serious competitive advantage.
You'll have a competitive advantage.
No, I really like that, and I think, look, if anyone's listening to this and thinking, you know what, all I see is videos on my LinkedIn newsfeed, trust me, like, that doesn't mean you shouldn't start. The market is, I know it looks like everyone's doing it, but trust me, they're not. There's a lot of people that aren't willing to get in front of the camera, and it is still such a huge window of opportunity. And I think, don't make the decision of, right, okay, I'm going to get in front of the camera and all I'm going to do is talk about my jobs. Don't do that. And I think, I was preparing for a talk that I'm doing for the TRN actually about some of this stuff, and I think if any recruiter right now was to scroll through their posts, if they were to look at the ones that they spoke about jobs and then the ones that they're more in lines of storytelling, spoke about how they helped a candidate, that one is always going to have 10 times more engagement. Do you know what I mean? So 100% couldn't agree more. So what I'd like to dive into now is so the 4 keys, right?
Yes.
So this is it is called that, your new book that's coming out,
it's
right?
Called The 4 Keys, yeah.
So what are the 4 keys?
Business, body, relationships, mindset.
Nice. Yeah. So how did you build that? Because I really believe in that. I think it makes it simple, doesn't it? If you get those right, then you're in a pretty good spot. But how did you come to that conclusion of, right, okay, if you get those right, then that should hopefully help? Yeah.
Well, there's several kind of evolutions or sections to it, if you like. Personal, and then how I kind of introduced it to a group of people and so on. So So the kind of context behind it really, I've always talked about business and mindset.
Yeah.
They're the kind of two, for the last 10, 15 years, that has always been my sweet spot. The relationships and even body, even though background in sports.
Yeah. So whenever you'd be going into these businesses, you'd be talking about these things, right? The business, the mindset.
That's it. Yeah, maybe a bit of health, but not. It was kind of winging it, really, in that sense. I mean, it was just not winging it, but it would come up in conversation, and I could bring just my own sport, my own experience of that. But to kind of give a very short overview, I came from a family of bakers, so my job, from the moment I was born was to be a baker. I mean, my granddad was a baker, they're based in North London, moved to Tunbridge Wells, had bakeries. My dad took it over, and always I didn't think of anything else.
That was the plan for you.
Yeah, I didn't think of anything else. Yeah. And but my dad sold the business when I was 11. I was devastated.
Really?
And even then, I kind of had this entrepreneurial flair of what we could do with the bakery and so on. So it was like the whole world just sort of changed. But my dad was convinced by a friend of his to move into the property market, and so he moved into property market. To be fair to me, he made a lot of money.
Yeah.
We had big houses in Tunbridge Wells, fancy holidays. We had this beautiful blue E-type Jag that my dad was a big fan of classic cars. But as quickly as he made his money, he lost a lot. But when he had the money, he was enjoying life, so he was enjoying the good life. Yeah. He'd gained weight, and he was a sportsman as well. So that kind of stopped. His relationships had become dysfunctional with my mum, so during that time as well. So whilst we had all these nice things were kind of sort of falling apart. And then in the 80s, the property market sort of just crashed, and we lost everything. So everything downsized. And then we see it now. He just didn't have the agility to kind of fight back. He'd got fat, and we see this in now. People metaphorically getting fat. On their. And getting a bigger house, the £800 lease on the Range Rover, and et cetera, et cetera. And we've even seen Bezos; he's getting divorced, isn't he? Now? He's the richest man in the world, nearly. One Sunday night, my dad came to the room and said, "Andrew, I'm going to bed. Come and give your dad a hug." And I said, "No. You've had a beer." And I was 16 at the time. He said, "Come and give your dad a hug." Anyway, he went to bed, and that was the last time I saw him. Yeah. He died of a heart attack, age 48.
Wow, that's so young.
So at the time, it seems young at the time, but it is. I'm 43 this year, so young. So unfortunately he died of a heart attack, and it's just stuck with me. And I don't know if the work I do now with business leaders is born out of that, or a catalyst. That was a catalyst for it.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because if you saw that with your own eyes, it's something that you obviously cared about, and you know how important it is, and how much of a negative impact it can have on everywhere else in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even when I was at Yellow Pages, I was seeing it. You know what I mean? I was seeing like my dad and these people that have grown a business, started a business, they're investing in advertising, and then I'd worked with them over 3 years, and then you kind of go, what's going on here? They're getting divorced, or they've gained weight, or the business suffers. So that kind of has always been in my mind, and I think maybe one of the reasons why I got into the coaching. But so fast forward, by 2016, I was. I'd been the head coach of Team GB for the roll hockey. We'd had the best results ever. I'd written a book about it. I had a thriving coaching practice. Everything was going brilliantly. Two young kids, an elder daughter. 3 beautiful kids. My wife. Everything's going brilliant. And then all of a sudden my wife turned around and said, "I didn't sign up for this." You're like, "What? Wait, what?" I didn't sign up for this. It's like, what do you mean? Everything's great. And then all of a sudden you realise it's not, and you don't hear the warning signs. So as a business owner, so I started talking to a few of my the business owners that I was working with, and they were going, "Mate, this is real. This is for the same. And everyone seemed to be having the same. Whether it was their health and my health had deteriorated. I was suffering with chronic arthritis, and it was. And then I realised it was more to do with stress, and I was getting gout, and I kind of started researching that and why I was getting gout. My family joke about it because my dad had gout, and they say it's the only thing he left me. But so I started really looking at this, and that's how it kind of manifested itself.
So you realised it was actually happening around you, that you'd been seeing
it's a
your whole
serious case of cobbler's shoes, because I was doing the work, and then thinking, actually I was between Dubai, New York, and travelling all over the place, and
was there a certain moment then? Like, I know you said you didn't see the warning signs and stuff, but was there a moment where you're like, fuck, like these things are really starting to deteriorate around me and things? Was there?
My wife moved out.
Oh, okay.
Too late. Yeah.
Wow.
So no, we're fine now. But it was a real kind of, and so I started thinking, how do we become more proactive about this stuff? And And so we looked at. So I introduced it to a few people, and then we created this mastermind. You know, I launched it.
I remember talking about that. Yeah.
And we had this mastermind, and the guys were coming back and saying, "Wow, this is game changing. Like we are having." And then some will be watching this, you know, they were just literally game changing. And the results. So I still had this kind of business psychologist hat, and I said, "Look, guys, do you want me to run a seminar on?" You know, so we'd got on Zoom or something like that, on Facebook. Do you want me to do something on business and structure and processes? And they were like, no, you know, we're just going all in on our body, our relationships, our mindset. The business is literally taking care of itself.
I love that.
Whereas I think we get so obsessed with the business.
Yeah.
So that was a real shift, and that was that was 2017.
Yeah.
So I set so we had these 90-day game plans. Yeah. And I said to the guys, look, my 90-day game plan is I'm going to write a book about this, just what we're doing with your case studies and and so on. And I set myself a target to complete the book by the end of the year. And a few other things, an online program and stuff like that. Like we had these goals that we said would just scare us. You know, let's come up with things that just scare us. But if we can compress time in 90 days, we can perhaps make.
What is that happen. About? We've been speaking about that as a business more. Think of it as like a 90-day stretch. And what is it about that helps? I guess visualize it or not make it seem as big. Do you get what I mean? I
think it takes from a dream or an aspiration to something practical.
Yeah, practical. That's it. So it just makes it more practical and actually realistic and achievable. Yeah,
even a 30-day target. What can I do in the next 30 days that's going to get me
closer to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we started doing that, but even what can we do between 8 and 12 each day? You know, when you're most cognitive, when your brain power is stronger. You know, and what are some of the things that we just don't like doing? If we can just get them done.
Yeah.
Because
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, well, in life you have come 1 foot on the accelerator and 1 foot on the brake. So you've got 1 foot on the accelerator towards the vision and this idea, and then you've got this kind of but I don't really like doing that. You know what I mean? So you've got this kind of, and that's why not everybody achieves their full potential or their objectives because they don't want to do the work, you know, and or the heavy lifting or the stuff that's a bit uncomfortable, which might be, set yourself a target to put 10 videos out as a consultant. I'm going to put, I don't want to do it, I hate it, but I know it's going to win me more business if I just put 10 videos out over the next 90 days. Just setting yourself a metric like that. Which is aligned to the vision, the personal vision.
How big is accountability with that then? Because I think that Facebook groups and things like that, that helps with that, isn't it? I guess you're sharing it with the group because if Andrew, you don't do that, you know that these people are going to hold you accountable.
You feel like you're letting them down.
Yeah,
exactly. So we didn't call it a mastermind at the time. We just had a WhatsApp group. It was a Get Fit to Win WhatsApp group. Yeah. And some people were more focused on their health. Some were focused on business. Some were focused on relationships. All the above. Just that, and we would post our 90-day targets in the group.
I like that.
So everyone, you see them, and I share some of them in the book, some of the case studies, so people get an example of, and they're quite different. Some are very metric focused, and some aren't so metric focused. But either way, there's some sort of level of outcome that I'm working towards.
I think I've heard that a lot. Look, I'm big into my podcast, self-development, all that stuff, and I think. I've heard a lot recently about if you get that fitness right in terms of really taking care of yourself, and also the mindset's got to be in that. Everything else should hopefully take care of itself. Yeah. So obviously, people that you experience a bit that yourself, or the people that you speak to that, the business is doing fine, and I guess a lot of people would think, no, I have to really, really focus on the business, which is why I don't have time to do these mindset stuff and the body. Yeah. But actually, you can focus on that because that will take care of itself. Maybe even do even better when you do really focus.
You're going to become more productive. Yeah. You've got more brain power. Yeah. You're going to be more effective. You're going to be a better person around those people around you. So look, I'm not saying, stop drinking, do this. There's nothing like that. But there are some, one of the things I talk about in the book is always ready. What you do today is going to determine how ready you are tomorrow. Yeah, nice. So if you're going to go out and party, then don't be surprised if you're not as ready as you want to be the next day, or if you're irritable, whatever. So it's just a choice that you make. But the bit you can make the business thrive, but that other stuff will catch up with you. So if the relationship becomes toxic, you're not going to go into work the same person.
No, 100%.
If you're going through some trauma around that, if your health is deteriorated. And when I stood up at an event just when I got the idea. And I said to them, you've all got your 3-year plan. You're all here. It was a conference of recruiters. And I said, you've all got your 3-year plan. I said, here's what's going to happen. And you've told your partner it's all going to come good and the holidays will come and all that kind of stuff. Here's what's going to happen. I said that your partner won't be there. I said the money you've got, you're going to be spending on medical bills.
Yeah.
And there's a danger of relationships become toxic with the kids. And everyone just kind of looked at me and say, you're literally in my living room. You know, it's like, and that's how it all started. So I
like that. So I really like the relationships part, and I think rarely do I speak to people about relationships in here, and I really like that. I think that's really interesting. Yeah. So I guess you can talk from your own experience. But what did you start? Because I think it makes sense. I guess in anyone who's a guy that's really driven by their business, purpose-led, etc.
Yeah.
There's so many guys out there that's what really drives them, and that's what they really focus on, right? And so when they do get home with the missus, a lot of the time they're not even there, right? They're not even there with them, even though
like present.
There.
You mean?
Yeah, they're not present. Yeah. So I guess and in recruitment, in particularly, obviously you got young guys absolutely working their ass off, young females doing that as well. It's normally that they stay late and all that, so I think that's a really important element for sure that I don't really speak about, that I've experienced myself. So what things did you start to do or change to help your relationship then that had an impact, or other people have spoken to you about as well?
So one thing is about being present. If you're there, you're present, and I think that's one thing. Get rid of the phones, and we all do it, right? I mean, we've all, you know, I caught myself the other day. My little one asking me a question. I was kind of, what am I doing?
Because I think that's what I mean. Because a lot of people can get caught up with. So if your partner's going, oh, like you're not spending enough time with me, etc. Guys can easily go, what? I spend every evening with you, or whatever.
Yeah.
But what she's actually saying is like, when you're here, you're not with me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, or she.
Or she. Yeah.
So no, 100%. I think it's like, don't think, all right, okay, well, no, I've been here all evening with you. What you're on about? It's actually, even if you spent less time. So let's say you only had an hour when you got home. If you're completely present with that person, that hour is going to be long enough. Do you know what I mean? So I think a lot of people get caught up with that, don't they? That
absolutely, and also, you know, that depending on if he or she is the breadwinner or something like that, you know, well, I'm bringing in I'm doing my work, you know, we have a nice, you know, and all that kind of stuff, as if it's some sort of justification for not being present. So that's one thing. But what we're not talking about here, or at least I'm not talking about, is work-life balance, because there are historically, you know, our ancestors, you go away for days, you know, time, you know, weeks, you have to do the work, you know, and I think we've probably lost that idea that, you know, that we're not going to be around all the time. You know, we might be working late. We might have to travel and stuff like that. It's what lets it down is the lack of proactive thinking to say, right, well, you know, in February I'm going to be working away for a week, or I know it's going to be really intense for a period of time, or just my lifestyle is that I work till late every night. What do I need to be thinking about to build in that time? So right, I need to book that time. You know, whether if you've got kids, I've got to get the babysitter sorted. Just take some control of it. Obviously, you involve your partner with it, but it's just that level of proactive thinking. Because when it's all go, all of a sudden, you know, we're coming up for February. Before you know it, it's November. So it's more about, it's not necessarily right, well, I'm going to work and I'm stopping at 5:30 every day. It's, no, actually, I do work till 8. So what can I do to make up for that? And build that time in
I like that.
In a proactive way.
I like that. I agree. Yeah, I think obviously work-life balance is getting chucked around so much now, and I don't think that just simply means, well, I'll work less or whatever, and I have more free time. Do you know what I mean? It's so much more than that. I agree. Okay, last bit before okay, cool. We got a bit of time and we'll start wrapping up. But what about the fitness part then? Because I'm quite passionate about that, and I think for me, my personal experience being in an office environment, you hear diet talk every single day. Oh, I'm trying this diet this week. Next week, it's not working. It's not working. Like, I hear it all the time. On Monday, people are in good spirits or whatever, and by the end of it, they're on Fat Friday, getting those meals in. And obviously, it's a constant challenge, and I think in the workplace it's a lot more evident. I think, and you hear a lot more of that conversation. So, and I couldn't agree more. When I felt my best now, and also in recruitment, is when I made sure that I made time to work out or exercise or whatever, like 1,000%, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with that. So, what things did people start changing in your mastermind group or whatever that helped them, that you can talk about or share? Yeah,
it's a good question. So I think when we first got into it, my views have changed actually of fitness, particularly and even just from that experience. You know, coming from a sports background, if I wasn't training, I was getting weaker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And actually, I was actually overtraining and getting weaker from the training.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think we need to be mindful of, is that we don't have to train as chronically as we think we should. You know, so when I hear people say, you know, I've got out of shape, so I've signed up for the marathon, I'm like, you know, why do you need to do that? You know what I mean? You know, you're going to be out all Sunday running, you know, so that's going to impact your family, you know. So my views of, you know, if you're a high performance athlete, you're going to do things that are perhaps not as good for you in the hope to win the gold. You know, there's, you know, that's just reality, but we don't need to be walking around injured. In fact, so I take a very much an ancestral approach. Our ancestors never worked out. You know, they had to sprint every now and then. Not everyone can sprint for whatever reason, but every, you know, I always say to people, it's 7 to 10 days, you know, just sprint a little bit. You know, if you're going to train in the gym, you know, my mindset was, and even people that train with me up until about a year ago, is that you leave nothing in the gym. You know what I mean? You leave everything in the gym. You leave everything in there. Everything's to failure. You know, and then spend the rest of the day just not with it. Do you know what I mean? Or overeating now, because you just want to eat whatever you can get your hands on, which causes inflammation and all that kind of stuff. And even chronic training, you know, it stimulates cortisol. It's a stress hormone. And then you go into work and you're more stressed. And so my views of training have changed dramatically. And so how I work with, so I trained as a health coach last year to help my clients a bit better, so I could give some sort of some good information so they can make an informed choice, and just slowing it down. You know, strength training, hugely important, particularly as we age. But it doesn't have to be 3 to 4 times a week. You know,
and I can imagine it being more focused on like just full body like movements, not like just bicep curls.
You know what
I mean?
You know, just
stretching as well, right, and all that. That's so
movement,
important.
stretching, and but bringing that kind of strength element into it. And there's different ways to do strength training. You can do body weight. You can do, you know, you pick up the barbell. And, but you know, I did the 4 days a week CrossFit stuff. You know, back in the day. You know, and you know, you kind of the cycle is CrossFit, intense, try some ollie lifting, get injured, recover, go back, do it again, get injured. You know,
I think a lot of people have that perception. I think a lot of people have that perception as well, which prevents a lot of people starting as well. Do you know what I mean? That they think, oh yeah, I'm getting back at the gym, so they associate. Okay, so that means doing all those things that you're talking about. Do you know what I mean? That you've now changed. So I think that also puts a lot of fear into people, because they're like, oh no, I can't do that. But I think you're right. I think having less of an expectation that you don't need to go there and walk out there not being able to push the door open because you wear your arms so hard. Do you know what I mean? I agree. I agree.
And we did some studies actually. We used some equipment. We worked with a recruitment company, and we did a study on those that trained at lunchtime.
Nice.
And there were people that were training quite aggressively, you know, like really into their how they look and shredding and all that kind of stuff, and we could see that their cognitive ability dropped in the afternoon. So we know that it doesn't. So that was interesting. In fact, the people that went out for a walk were far more effective cognitively in the afternoon than stressing their body like that.
That's really interesting.
But the most important thing, particularly for consultants, business owners, is what you eat. You know, and if you're looking to get leaner, if you're looking to get stronger, feel better cognitively. It's really down to what we eat, I think there's some really good hacks around that people can consider.
You do know?
Yeah, I think so. You know, and certainly eating, and people will challenge this. I mean, stuff came out in the news this morning. We've got to eat more fibre, and I haven't had I don't eat.
So you're on the keto diet, or I remember in the last
now.
Or high fat diet.
Right now, it's World Carnivore Month, so I've not eaten anything apart from meat.
Really?
For the last...
Really?
Wow. So totally carnivore at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's just an experiment. It's that's fun.
Look,
but I feel brilliant on it.
Yeah, no, I think what you just said there, experiment, is the important word there. I think everyone's looking for that golden bullet. Everyone's looking for that one diet that's going to save them. I think, look, from I commented on your recent post about obviously the vegan diet and all that. I was vegan for a year and a half, and I was vegetarian for like three years, right? Mm-hmm. And the thought of eating meat during that period was like, oh, what? No.
I did it as well, you know.
And I think, and then look, I had a bit of an epiphany myself, and I realised, I think for me, you got to listen to your body. And there was a moment where I was like, you know what? When I do eat, I feel like I feel bloated a lot more than I did. I started having more stomach aches, and I was like, you know what? This diet is no longer serving me. However, when you're in that world, which I understand, is that you can become it almost can become a bit more of a cult, and it's like, no.
Well, if you look at, I mean, you've only got to go on a forum.
That's what I mean.
You know, it's particularly because I've done a 180, haven't I? So I'm totally
I've done the same.
Carnivore, and
my partner's still a vegan though, so the looks I get when I'm cooking chicken thighs for dinner and that.
It is a tough one, but you know, what's the purpose behind it? Why are we doing it? And then you get into all different ethical arguments and so on. It's probably not for this podcast, but I think your point about trusting
you got to listen to your body. Yeah. So what are hacks then? Because all I see is people just eating sandwiches every lunch, and I know that doesn't serve people, like in terms of making sure that they maximise their day by feeling energetic, cognitively, etc., etc. Everyone reaches for the meal deal.
Get the grain fog. You know, and
it's crazy. So what things have help or little hacks or whatever that people can do, do you know?
So I can only go what's worked for me and some of the clients that I've worked with, and because they have different goals. So they might still lose weight, get leaner, feel better. Perhaps they're trying to reduce inflammation, that kind of stuff. I'm a big advocate of the ketogenic diet. You know, I know that this morning news came out saying, you know, we've got to eat a fibre and eat our carbs and all that kind of stuff. I think that's just industry news. I don't believe it. Keto, for those that not sure what it is, it's a very low carb diet, high fat, moderate protein. I think it's very sustainable.
That's what's been working for me. Yeah, for sure.
It works, and it's certainly mileage levels that, you know, having suffered with gout for 15 years, and just eliminated that with keto. So, by the way, there's a process because to a transition, should I say? There's not. I don't want anyone to go, oh, that sounds great, I'm just going to stop eating carbs for. Yeah. See,
to be fair, I've never gone like full keto, if I'm honest, but I'm on a low carb diet definitely. I just that's all I'd call it. That I don't like to consume a lot of carbs. Yeah,
and some of the people I work with that are perhaps more active and they are. Training, you know, I'm not a big fan of long endurance training, but if they are, then what I would say is anything between for 150 grams of carbohydrate per day, which is still low for most people. If you have a couple of sandwiches and then other things,
adds
then
up so
you're up 400, 500, and it's insidious. So those that put on weight between the age of 20, and that's what we see in recruitment, don't we? You know, someone comes into business at 23, unrecognisable at 28. You know, but it's because of insidious. You know, you're putting a couple of pounds on a year. You know, all of a sudden, you know, you look around, and you go, what happened there? And you know, so, so I think there are ways to maintain your body weight. I mean, I'm probably, you know, I feel better now than I did in my 20s. You know, I was eating a high carb diet in the gym 3-4 days a week, and then hockey as well. So. I'm a fan of fasting. You know, again, it's I don't eat anything. Intermittent fasting. I've not eaten today.
I think it's what you said is like. I know everyone's different, and some people need their breakfast. I used to be like that, but for me, especially in like a sales environment, like I feel like that window of when you get into the office to 12 is like such a productive point. Period. And I think for me, I don't know what it is, but I just feel more productive, more clear-headed when I just feel like slightly empty, and I just feel like
we might be producing ketones as well. So you might be, you know, even intermittent fasting would produce ketones, which is a cleaner fuel for the brain than glucose. So you know, that's
something to experiment with.
I think you know, I mean, if anybody wanted to just send me a message and some advice on it, I'm happy to give them some advice. But because to fast, you know,
it has that association that you don't eat.
And there's a difference between fasting and starving. You know, starving will cause stress response, put you in fight flight, and then you get autophagy, and that's not very nice. So, it's you've got to be fat adapted. So if you can get to 12 o'clock without eating, then it's probably because we've got plenty of fat on our body, and now the body's using that as a fuel source rather than glucose. Whereas if you come in, have the cappuccino, and then the breakfast, and then you think, I better have a snack because I'm, you know, so you're on the insulin roller coaster. So as a top performer, you don't want that. I mean,
no, you definitely don't.
As a business, you want to be, you know, I'm delivering training. People always say to me, you know, it's 5 o'clock, you still get, you know, and it's like,
I know, I get that. I think what I think for that is like, how can, like, there's so many people out there who just every time at 3 o'clock they go, oh God, I'm feeling a bit tired.
They're going to get a Coke, you know, or something.
And it's just like, it just doesn't make sense to me that like they'll just do the same thing the next day. Just
because it's hard. You know, I mean, you know, sugar arguably is more addictive than cocaine. So you know, it's people say, I'm not addicted to sugar. Well, try stop having it then. You know, so and then they'll go, and then it's hard. You know, it really is. It is a difficult transition, but I always say to people that if you're going to work with me from a health coaching perspective, cut out sugar and grains for 21 days. Just do that.
See how you feel.
And then call me in 21 days. If you can commit to that, then we can start the work.
I think the important thing to underline is that, which is why we got onto this, is that if you generally do take a real effort into that, it's going to benefit you in your whole day in terms of being a recruiter, working in business, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Well, it's going to have a direct impact.
Yeah, you're steady. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so look, before I let you go, I like to always ask this question, so it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this. So basically you can answer with a phrase, a sentence, whatever comes to mind. The question I'm asking you is, if you could communicate to every recruiter, recruitment business owner out there, they'd listen to Andrew, they'd implement your advice, what would you say?
What would the advice be?
Yeah, what would the advice be? What would you say?
Cool, you put me on the spot there a little bit. So what would the advice be? Because you said business owners, and so to try and find somebody that's kind of at the core of that. I think going back to your point about the why.
Okay.
Just have a think about the story that shapes you. Because the why is often is manifested out the story that shapes us.
Yeah.
And that can be so powerful.
Yeah.
Once we kind of go, wow, it's I've kind of been, for 25 years, I didn't want to talk about the loss of my dad. You know what I mean? Yeah. And all of a sudden, it became empowering rather than this kind of dark cloud over me. So some of those stories, they can be really positive stories. Some of them might be some that you kind of just. Yeah. But that's something for me in that, just. What's the story that shapes you? We could do psychometric testing, all that kind of stuff. But everyone knows that.
Yeah.
And I talk about it in the book, but a guy that I was working with in the Middle East and did a psychometric test, and he was like, everyone knows this about me, and but then we had this kind of interaction.
Yeah.
And I won't give too much away, but he identified a story. It was so compelling to him as a leader that it just changed the whole dynamic of his team when he shared it.
I really like that. What's the story that shapes you? I like that.
Yeah.
So look, before we finish, we mentioned it briefly before we come up the stairs. Probably should have spoke about it a bit more, but so obviously you got this new book coming out. When's it coming out?
It'll be on Amazon January 15th.
Okay.
And I believe the publisher runs it for like 99 cents or pound, 99p, depending where you are in the world. Yeah, so for a week.
Oh, for a week.
Bargain.
Get those sales up.
Yeah, I think the publisher, it gets the bestseller thing. It's some sort of strategy to do it. So if you're going to buy it anytime, get it then. Yeah. But January 15th.
Cool. Yeah. I know we spoke about it. Look, I think you shared a lot about your perspective, your opinion, etc. I think, as I said, a lot of recruiters listen to this. So if how do you feel about, I don't know, if one or two people were to reach out with you and share, I don't know, what do you think, a goal, their biggest goal of 2019 or their 90-day goal, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what we could do. On the website, there's a survey.
Okay.
And
on your website, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll put the link on the
and we can send a survey, actually. Put the link on there. The first 5 people that complete the survey, I'll send out 5 books.
Okay. Is there anything that they need to put on there to indicate that they listen to this podcast?
That's a good point. Just say somewhere on the questionnaire. Yeah, do that. Yeah, and then just put.
Okay, cool. So the first 5 people that fill out the survey, I'll put the notes. The show notes in here. Within the survey, just put in big capital letters the Recruitment Rollercoaster podcast. And you'll get yourself a free book. Yeah,
first 5.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Well, awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.